sorry.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of A Contagious Smile Unstoppable. So we are unfiltered, so you're good to go. Where every story has a smile to it, you just have to dig in to find it. I have Rick with us. I am so excited. I've been waiting to talk with him. He is amazing. He has such a story that I don't even know how to give a decent biography about him. I'm going to let him just give a little bit, but the way I'm going to talk with him, I'm sure it'll all come out during our conversation. Rick, I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Oh, Victoria, it's my honor. Thank you so much for having me. Absolutely.
So tell us your story, like in a nutshell, so people know who you are before we really get into it.
Yeah, first and foremost, guys, what I would like to tell everybody is I have a self-mastery system. I am a self-mastery monster. So if you want to be your 10x, the best version of yourself, go online. I'm internet-based. For those that live in the Missouri area, I have a gym, 10,000 square feet of nothing but pure energy. And I train people to be the best version of themselves, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So all depending on what they're looking to get out of life, I can definitely excel their process because I've done it for 56 years. I have decades. I've been a martial artist for 51 years, a personal trainer for 37 years. And again, I just got a lot of knowledge to share.
He does not look 56. And before we even said anything, I was like, I love all your art because
Yeah.
his canvas is covered and I love it. Like it's amazing and it's beautiful. So,
Well, I'm committed. When I start something, I mean it's all go. It's full speed or nothing. And I knew it. My mom knew it. She calls me Ricky. She goes, your whole body's going to be covered. And decades later, I am blasted. And again, like I said, head to toe, even my toes, and working on the face now, which I'm getting a lot of different opinions on. But like we were talking about, Victoria, this is my journey. This is my life. And I just like to eliminate job options.
I love it. I love it.
Keeps me on the path of what I'm doing, man. I got to stay self-employed.
There you
That's
go.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I tell people all the time I don't leave fingerprints, so they kind of look at me puzzled.
Yeah. That's awesome.
All
That
right.
is.
You obviously grew up in New Jersey and you started studying martial arts when you were 4. I was almost 6. So you started very young. What made you decide to get into it? Do you even
Uh,
remember because you were so young?
yeah, no, absolutely. And you look young. I thought you were definitely in your like 20s or 30s.
Oh, God bless you.
Absolutely. No, I don't lie. Love doesn't lie. You know what I mean? And that's far. I mean, I don't lie to anybody. But what got me involved was my parents. They said I had very bad anger issues as a kid.
At
And I
4.
think it started probably getting picked on by my older sibling. You know, she was jealous the whole 9 yards. And, you know, as a kid, you don't really remember much or anything of that nature. But at any rate, at the age of 4, June 27th, 1972, my parents um, enrolled me into my very first traditional Korean karate taekwondo class. And my very first class, I was such a smart aleck that my instructor broke my nose. Okay. And I believe it or not, I fell in love with it. That's when I knew this was my path. And he thought I was crazy, and he wasn't too far off because of now, you know, fast forward now, all these decades, I'm definitely a little crazy, but you know, I think we all got to stay a little crazy to stay sane in this world.
Absolutely.
You know,
1000%.
you have to. And again, I don't really jive or mess with people that aren't a little mentally challenged or have a checkered past. So
Absolutely.
again, you have to have one of those two for me to actually jive with you, even though I can conversate with anybody. But yeah, it was at the age of 4, and you know, my journey started from there. I mean,
Right.
there was my real fun memories of being a kid was at the age of 4, and I grew up doing martial arts. Now you had to be 7 and back in the 70s to play football, baseball, or basketball. So my folks were just looking for something as quick as possible to give me discipline. And it did. It really did. And I can't imagine my life without it. And then obviously, as I got older, I played recreational sports such as football, baseball, and basketball. But anytime there was an energy leak, my parents had me right into martial arts. So it was like, you know, where I left off, I start off and just kept on progressing from there. So martial arts has always been a part of my life, even though I've taken numerous hiatuses from it. I just always seem to navigate back to it. So Yeah, got into martial arts, which then stemmed me into boxing, into Muay Thai into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was really where I focused majority of my years on, my decades with, because of at that point in time, it was your age, your rank, and your weight. So they basically narrowed the playing field. So it was fair. And
Right.
that's how I looked at it, because the last time I fought in the cage, at the time I was 39, and the kid I fought was 24. And he had me by a good 50 pounds because there was no weight classes.
Oh, you froze on us. Uh-oh.
And he came in there, and like I said, I retired with an L, but my whole life has been wins.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
So, do you believe that growing up with a martial art background as a child made you different than any of the other kids you went to school with?
no doubt. It gave me the edge of Hanem. It did. I mean, I'm going to be truthful here. I grew up in a pretty violent neighborhood.
Hmm.
And it was one of those deals that you had to decipher the pecking order right away, and it was you fought every day, every single day, and it was a big neighborhood.
Hmm.
And I had one up on them. I was taking on kids that were 3 to 4 years older than me, and when you're 10, 11, or 12, those 3 to 4 years mean a lot opposed to when you're older.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
they're going through. I mean, they got the testosterone. They're men. They're growing mustaches. I don't even have a hair on my ass, and I'm I'm breaking their face.
Right.
So it definitely did, and I created a name for myself fairly early. So when people came around, they knew win or lose, they were going to bruise when they fought me, and that was it. And I enjoyed it. I really did. And I saw a saying one time saying, what is it? Like violence doesn't solve everything, but it's definitely helpful or something. And I know I screwed that up, but honestly, it was, I grew up in a violent area, in a neighborhood, in an atmosphere,
Right.
and I felt totally comfortable with it. I really did. You look back at it now as being older. And again, I instruct certain ways. I might be like that guy from the Karate Kid, the other instructor. I forget his
Right.
name.
Not
Take
Mr.
the knee
Miyagi,
out.
the other
Take the
guy.
knee out. That would probably be me more. Is that because I mean that's it. Gold counted to me, obviously. Gold counts. And when my guys competed, if they went in there and they didn't give me the best version of themselves that day or didn't show up, I was pissed. And I hated to be that way. But I wear my emotions on my sleeve. And not that I don't love them and give them a hug, but when they get on there and I know they beat themselves and they didn't give it 100%, that's when I get pissed. You
Right.
go out there and you bleed for me and you go 100 and you show me that you're giving me your best, I'm going to give you nothing but love, man. You went into battle. Hey, you didn't come out with the gold, but you came out alive, no injuries. We're good. But when you go in there and you don't perform to your best, you're going to know it. And I
Absolutely.
lost students over it. I did. And I'm not for everybody. I'm intense. My intensity draws people away, but that makes me just move forward. You
See,
know
I
what I
love
mean?
that.
It keeps me alive.
I love that. I think intensity is so important because I trained so strongly, and it was like it became my air in a way where everything was about discipline and respect and de-escalation and the training, and like I would always instead go out and work on my katas, and so I wasn't working on like let's go play Barbies or anything like that. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to impress my sensei. I wanted to make sure that my gi was always crisp and my belt was always right. I mean that's where it was. It wasn't necessarily I want the intensity because I'm going to give it. So I want it back. So I know that
I
makes,
love it.
and being a girl, I got a lot of crap about it because, not a lot of
Absolutely.
girls are that way. I'm sorry,
No. And how long, Victoria, were you in martial arts or still am? And how many years are we working on?
25.
God bless you. Oh, you're a beast. Absolutely. But you watch the era change as well because of, again, one of my best friends took over the studio, the academy that we used to go to, Gordon Pritchard in South Jersey, Mount Laurel. And when the whole MMA craze started coming around in the late 80s, early 90s, I told him, I said, Gordon, man, we're going to have to revamp this, man. Get mats instead of hardwood floors. And he says, I don't have to do shit, but do what I'm doing. And he goes, and I'll prevail. And he did, but he went through a rough stage for about 5 years where people were just navigating to whatever gym had the octagon, or, who was teaching the newest phase and things of that nature. And, but he stuck with it, and he's doing phenomenal as well. And are you also in Korean karate, Taekwondo, or okay? Yeah, it's tough.
It is.
It was one of my favorite arts. It really was.
Yeah.
And a lot of it out there is watered down as well, just like anything. I'm watching it happen to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu right now, where people are losing the code of honor, and they're disrespecting, and they're not going through the proper protocol of calling your sensei or your instructor or your coach or your professor. They're calling you dude or man. And I mean, I bowed off the mat probably about a year ago, just for honestly injuries and a lack of passion. And I told everybody, every time I come onto this mat, I have to earn my black belt. I don't take it for granted. And when I started seeing myself looking at my clock opposed to doing the technique, I knew it was time. Even though I delivered and I was giving them outstanding material, deeply inside, I was in the weight pile. I was training people on weights. That's where my passion was. And weight training has always been my passion, and it's always been my anchor, regardless of, doing martial arts for 51 years. That's just an individual connection I have with the weights.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even in jiu-jitsu, even though it's an individual sport, you still got a team, and you're still going against somebody else. You're working your techniques with somebody else. There's no katas. I mean, there's some drills you can do solo, but the majority of the drills you're doing on each other. And you might have some uncooperative uki. I don't know if you call the same thing. I know, different schools call the dummies ukis, and I think that's horrible, but it is what it is. You need them. The weights was individual. It's just me and the iron.
Right.
That's it. And that connection, and being in solitude for so many years too. I wasn't allowed to, being in prison, I wasn't allowed to put my hands on other inmates or things of that nature, even though, believe it or not, I was training the COs and other inmates as well. They figured out a way of making it happen because I had something they wanted.
Right.
And it was to know how to defend their life. And that's what really got me accepted out here in Branson, Missouri. I mean, I moved out here from Jersey, Philadelphia area at the age of 42, and I'm totally blasted. I'm from the Northeast. I'm a Yankee. And, if it wasn't for martial arts and them wanting something I had, I probably wouldn't have been as accepted.
Right.
And I created life here, Victoria, which I love. Even with the trials and tribulations of my son, I'm sure you'll probably want to touch on that, which again, I'm an open book. When I talk about my son, I talk with a smile on my face because he's here with me. I'm getting goosebumps even saying it. Because he is. He's here watching this podcast, man. He's saying, Dad, you're doing good. You know what I mean? Like what we were talking about earlier, him shooting off his finger. I mean, it's nothing comparison, but, somewhat is.
Yes. And he's celebrating. You celebrate the life that you did have with your son. You celebrate the days you had with your son. That's how you keep him alive. That's how you keep him alive within you, is you celebrate every day the memories, and that's how you keep him going, because he's there with you. Absolutely.
Smile. And he gives me signs.
I believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. Absolutely. So let's talk.
I know. What's that?
Let's talk about how you became incarcerated. So you and your dad end up going into.
I killed 50 people, and they get. No, I'm only kidding. I shouldn't even joke like that.
Like, wait, I didn't think about that part.
In my mind, I did. You know what I mean? I had to mean about this. I'm looking at you and I'm figuring out 10. Is that what you're saying, Victoria, about my incarceration?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What do you want to know?
So how did it happen? You and your dad end up going to jail. You went to prison.
We were in prison. We were maximum security state prison. No Fed time. We were in maximum security at level 5, 4, 3 yards. And we were maximum security. So bottom line, my father had pizzerias for over 47 years, close to 48. Okay. and I always say I had connections in the mob, but I was not connected. All
Right.
right. My father owning pizzerias back in the 60s, 70s, you know, you dealt with the family. That's who
Sure.
you dealt with,
Right.
or you got dealt with. And
Absolutely.
they were putting out good product and things of that nature. So I mean, this is where you went for your flour, you went there for your sauces, everything, basically everything.
Right.
And I had a lot of uncles growing up, a lot of uncles that weren't really my biological uncle, but my father, even though I'm German, he's German. He was raised in an orphanage in Flatbush, New York, by Italian nuns. So he learned how to speak fluent and never taught it to me. But at any rate, that had really nothing to do with my incarceration. We got hooked up into cocaine, okay, large amounts of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not condoning it. It's a regret I have because of the simple fact that that's one thing I stand on to this day is drugs because I lost my son to drugs, and I'm a huge advocate to get it off the streets
Absolutely.
by all means necessary. And like I said, I paid my debt to society and to myself and my family, and I feel as though God forgave me. He did. I paid my karma debt off, but at the same point in time, we just got involved in something that we shouldn't, and we got caught. And we got caught. So they got us with possession with the intent to sell a dangerous substance.
So why
And
did
with
they
that
put you
being
in
said,
solitaire?
why was I in solitary?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in solitary at first. I mean, that happened inside. I
Right.
was I was
Absolutely.
thrown in solitary confinement for fighting. Yeah, yeah. When I got in again, it's no different than being in the street. You got
Mm-hmm.
to decipher the pecking order. And I wasn't the one that was going out and looking for the biggest, baddest guy out there. They came to me. So I mean, they started something, I finished it,
Right.
plain and simple. And I had
So
to do that multiple times. I mean, I in 5 years, I probably did it about 50 times. And each time, man, all depending on if the CO wants to do the paperwork or how bad you beat the person up, that's going to dictate your punishment.
right. How did you
And
deal with
sometimes
being?
I did in solitary itself. How did I feel? What?
I think there's a little gap between us when
I
we're
didn't hear you.
talking. There's like a little space when we're talking.
Okay.
So what? How did you manage to deal with being in solitaire?
You have no choice. What are you going
Right.
to do? Run your head through a wall and kill yourself? I mean, that's what you want to do. I mean, literally, the only light I had was from the door where they bring in your tray. And all you have is a toilet and a sink. Okay. You can't even see yourself. I mean, your eyes get adjusted of being in there for so long. And
Sure.
like I said, I think it was it was close to 5 months. It wasn't quite 6. I was supposed to do 6. I did less than 5. And, I mean, they give you a horse blanket, which is probably about 3 foot by 3 foot. So it doesn't even cover your body. It's cold. You're in there with your boxers on and your pillows, your toilet paper. That's it. No phone calls, no books, no nothing. Just darkness in yourself.
How did you manage that? What would you do while you're in there for six
That's
months?
it. They actually now they outlawed it. Basically, I don't know if they outlawed it or not, but they got rid of it because they just said how it really screws with people's heads. And
Yeah.
yeah, man, like when they crack that door, first you can't see. You got minimal light. I mean, but it's just shocking. You're like, and literally, you don't even want to step out. I mean, I was a little, I'm going to say scared, man. I was just, it felt weird walking out, man.
Sure.
Like, that's where it really hit me the most. And I had my moments, I did. But you talk about, getting to know yourself. You replay so many things that you have, and just altercations and fun times and girlfriends and homies, and you replay because you can't write anything down. Again, you don't have no reading material. It's just your blanket, and a roll of toilet paper. Made
Wow.
me stronger. It made me learn how to appreciate things. Like when COVID hit, I said, "You guys are a bunch of pussies, man. Like you got the luxury of your own home. You can leave it. Like they think that's locked down. Yeah, okay.
Take 24 hours in solitaire. See how you like it.
Hey, man, but I also tell this to people. Like you and I have been through a lot, Victoria, and we had tragedies. but our tragedy is going to be different than somebody else's tragedy as well. You
Right.
know, that person that just, broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend for the first time, and that's all they have in their life. That's a tragedy to them.
Yeah.
So we got to realize, and I learned this a long time ago because I was very uncompassionate when it came down to things of that nature. I'm just like, oh, you don't, but you know what? Let's hope they never find out. Let's hope they never go through things that you and I have been through. You
Right.
know what I mean? Let's just pray it doesn't happen because of, it's nothing I wish even on my worst enemy. Maybe my worst enemy, maybe. I don't have any. So, you know, I try not to. But, it's one of those deals again, getting back to the whole, I realized I didn't want to go back in there.
Yeah.
Like prison, when I got out, I towed the line, man. You know what I mean? I had a few different hiccups, speed bumps down the road, but nothing to put me in that type of position. And rightfully so, man. I earned every one of those months and years that I was in there for what I did.
Now, your dad remained once you were released? He remained incarcerated?
He did. He stayed 2 more years. He stayed 7 years. My old man was happy. He wanted to stay. He
Really?
did. He was already, my father was probably in his mid 60s at the time. And he goes, kid, he goes, it's a complete circle. I started out in the institution, what was the orphanage. He went into the military, came out, started out with a hot dog cart to restaurants, then the pizzerias. And then, he's getting older now. He's back in an institution.
Right.
And he was happy, he got he had his TV, his fan, his own room, he had his cigarettes, and he was the cook for the ODR, which is the officers' dining room. So he made it up to an honor camp where basically there's no fence around the jail at all. I mean, obviously, if you try to leave, you're gonna get the consequences.
Absolutely.
But he was the cook, and he was doing the books. It was like that movie show. What is it?
So,
I was
Shawshank Redemption?
There you
Redemption?
go.
Yeah.
That was my old man. He did the books for the CEOs and everything like that, and they were a lot cooler than that guy was.
Yeah.
And he was kicking back. He was kicking back, so he didn't want to come out, man. Even though he wanted to be out for his grandkid and everything like that. And but yeah, like I said, good man, and I felt bad for him. I really did. I wish I was able to get him out of the time he did, and I tried. They were going to let me off. They were going to let me off with minimal consequences whatsoever because they didn't have enough evidence on me, but they knew I was a part of it.
Right.
So part of the plea agreement was, they're going to reduce your time for certain things. Now, obviously, they want you to snitch, and there was no snitching involved. You snitch, you're dead. So
Sure.
unless you want to die, you keep your mouth shut. You know what I mean? But then again, they wanted the pizzeria, they wanted the money that was there, which then they had to prove that we were involved in organized crime for over 25 years. You know what I mean? And then again, they had such a hard on for me that they said if Junior, because he's senior, I'm junior, if Junior basically takes the same charges as his father, we'll reduce the father's time. And my father was like, absolutely no. No, kid. You got a kid. You got your own son. You got to stay. I said, listen, no, I was part of it. And if I can reduce your sentence and you're able to get out of here before you're dead, I'm doing it. You know what I mean? So I did, man. I was the only thing I cooperated with. And it was to get my father out earlier. He didn't talk to me for 9 months.
Wow. Rick,
But I
how
was
did
a
your
stable
mom
guy,
handle
man.
that?
Like I said, I had people, man, wanting to take care of me when I got out, man. I just was like, nah, man. Like, I did the crime, I did the time. I ain't gonna fucking snitch on nobody.
Right. Rick, how did your mom handle it?
My mother and father got divorced when I was 16. So they were already separated.
Okay.
But she's mom. Mom's
Right.
still alive. My mom is fuck, man, 87, 88. Now she's
Good
older
for
than that.
her.
Yeah, she's up there. She's up there. And she was heartbroken. She was. And like I say about the tattoos, now anymore, it's not only to eliminate jobs options, it's to disappoint my mother more. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing to your beautiful skin? And I'm like, I'm covering it up, mom. She don't like them.
What
She don't
about
like.
getting one for her? Get a tattoo for your mom.
I got to find a spot somewhere for it. I'm literally covered from head to toe. I mean, there's only one spot that I'm very hesitant. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, butt cheeks and all, man, they're covered. I probably hurt me one of the most, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. That in my fingertips. It's wherever there's not like a bone in place, that's where it hurts the most, like your stomach. And like I said, my gluteus minimus.
The feet. When I got my feet done, they're like, "Oh, we're doing a foot tattoo. Turn up the music." And I was like, "Oh, this is awesome!" Like I was enjoying it when they got done. I was like, "Can y'all just pat water? Why do we have to stop? Like, come, what are you doing? Stop!" No,
So
I love
you are covered then.
it. I my one tattoo, it's covering a stabbing scar, and it took 16 and a half hours. Yeah. And so it took 16 and a half hours, and I was just laying there and I was just in heaven. I was like, this is so therapeutic. Who needs anything right now besides this? Like I'm great. I'm
And
good.
let's pump the brakes. Rewind for me for a second, Victoria. It's covering what?
I was stabbed a dozen times. Like it's a whole different story, but you're my guest, Rick. You're my guest.
We gotta talk afterwards. Is there
Uh-oh.
anybody I gotta go visit or what? I'm a part of the Quaker Club. You know
I
what I mean?
know. I
Yeah.
know.
We'll
Yeah.
come pulling up on them quick.
Where were you a few years ago? Well, when a few years.
Oh man, I was here. God bless you. All right. Well, that's on you if you want to talk or not about. We'll talk later if not.
Oh, thank you. So, oh, it was so. I have to tell you, I am not a very tearful person. I show my emotion on my sleeve, but normally I'd be able to do it. But I got so emotional when I read about Dave because he just see, and I watched some videos of him fighting, and his technique is flawless. It was beautiful. And so I was watching him in the ring, and it was just, or in the cage, and it
Yeah.
was just flawless. Like I could just play more and more videos watching him. But February 8th, 2020 was the last day this beautiful human was seen. And what a life. His eyes were full of life. His eyes were full of love. Every time I watch any video that he was in, even fighting, you could see the dedication in his face constantly. Absolute dedication and love for what he was doing. And you just find, like, do you get a call that says Dave is missing? How did that happen?
No, and you know what? And then also rewind that Victoria man. He was my boy, and nothing against his mother. He wasn't a mommy's boy. He was a daddy's boy. You know what I mean? And we had that connection. From the time I got out of prison, and he was at the time, I guess, a little over 5. He actually took his very first steps in Trenton State Prison. I used to give him little capfuls of soda. His mother never gave him sugar. He got all wound up and took off, and I'm like, oh shit, first steps in prison. And he went away for some time, but he was always looking to please me. He wanted me to be proud of him, and I was. I mean, even all the different shenanigans he did. I never told him once I was ever disappointed because I wasn't.
Right.
You know
Did
what
you
I mean? I
train
just
him? You
love that kid.
you trained him, right?
I trained him from he was a baby on up. But see now, here's the deal. That's why I tell people with my self mastery system, kids will always fail to do what you tell them to do, but they will always emulate what you do,
That's
and they
right.
do, and
That's
they
right.
do. And he saw me running around with his uncles again and running the city and hearing our stories and. We're egotistical assholes, and he's hanging on every friggin' word, and I'm not even thinking about it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like just conversations, just loudmouth fucking Italians, man. Just saying our
Forget about
shit,
it.
and yeah, forget about it, right? And he's just hanging on every word, and so like I said, he was always involved in martial arts. Now,
Mhm.
when we moved out here to Branson, he was 15, just at that vulnerable age. And he
Right.
said, Dad, he goes, it used to take me 5 minutes to hang out with 5 friends. Now it takes me 2 hours to hang out with 2 friends, and just we've moved and people think this is the city out here, but we have a population of 10,586 people. And to me, that was my graduating class. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I mean, as a tourist town, if you don't know anything about Branson, we get anywhere from 5 to 10 million tourists here a year,
Yeah.
maybe a little more. So when the season hits, we do get busy, but when it comes down to the locals, you just got to select few. And my son was always like me, hanging out with the older kids. I mean, he was, when he passed, 6'6", 257 pounds, solid muscle from his calves to his ears. There wasn't a weak body part on him. Good looking, knew how to fight. He just, people wanted to be a part of it, be a
Right.
part of it. So he
Right.
just chose the wrong people to hang out with the wrong habits.
Right.
And he would go on his little, I should say, sabbaticals, where I wouldn't see him for a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And then he would come back and sleep it off for a week and then get up and heal. And all depending if he got his head out of his ass, he was going back or he was coming to train. And at that time, he had years sober as well. But when he fell off, he fell off. He would go on a sick one. So him going missing, the last thing I wanted to do is attract any attention to him,
Sure.
because God knows what he did. I mean,
Right.
he was involved with some bad shit. So we didn't do that. We didn't blow the whistle. But then COVID hit too. This is all when COVID happened.
Right.
And good buddies next to mine, he's a state trooper. His wife's a DA agent. We started hearing rumors. And one thing about Branson, there's a lot of meth and a lot of people that like to spread rumors, and it's whisper down the lane. It's just one of those deals. And rumors were going out. So I started to get a little worried because I'm not hearing from him. He's not answering his phone, and we're trying to track it. And I was like, nah, I think it's time to call the cops in on this. And I just have a rule: don't call the cops. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So for my son, I broke my rule, but it was something I felt as though that I needed help with. And he was missing for close to 2 years. And Victoria, I heard every horrific story there is. And some of your listeners will probably be shocked that I can even say it. I'm just numb to it all. I mean, I
Sure.
heard he got burnt to death. You know what I mean? To ashes, cut up and fed to the pigs. I heard, he was buried in sewage systems. Locked up this. I mean, you heard every horror story, but I had to listen to every one of these stories because there could have been a missing piece from that puzzle that they uncovered that I needed.
Right.
So after close to 2 years, there was a gentleman walking in the woods, and he was in an isolated part of the woods, which was kind of hard to get to, but he knew it, and he was looking for antlers. They collect deer antlers around here. An older gentleman, and he was walking his dog. Well, his dog went to this really remote area and was sniffing on my boy's bones. And the dog wouldn't listen to him to come back. You know what I mean? So he got pissed that he had to kind of go through the brushes and get his dog. And that's when he came across my son's body. And he literally thought it was a cow's remains because of how big his bones were.
Right.
And then when he realized it was clothes in it and he was kind of buried into the earth because he was out there for 2 years. And he realized, he goes, this is probably the boy that they've been looking for. So he got involved with, the cops and everything, which then I got the phone call, and a good buddy of mine, he was a detective. He goes, we think we found your boy's body. I said, well, I ain't going to mention his name, but he said, I said, well, you would know. And I'll just say it's Shane. Okay. And he goes, well, we got to see what his last dental, and we provided it. And then, within 24 hours, they confirmed it. And so I just wanted to debunk all the stories I heard, and basically they said no foul play was entered. Even to this day, I got a bunch of conspiracy theorists out there. They don't come to me, but they come to other individuals. And my whole response to that is, unless you're 110% sure on what you're about to say, and there's somebody that can be prosecuted in it, or I can find that individual, keep your mouth shut. Because
Right.
I know for a fact now his physical being will not be on this earth.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Even though his spirit and soul is lingering. Okay. And I got my closure, and I did. And I was pretty sure that he passed, because I was his best friend.
Yeah.
He would have reached out to me and said, hey, Pops, I got into trouble. I'm on the run, or I'm in trouble. I mean, none of that at all. And he was somebody, when he would do drugs, he would get very paranoid, and he would go through sleep deprivation and, get spun out of his skull. And he loved the woods. He loved to hide in the woods. He felt safe, and he found a safe spot. So, like I said, he was a big kid, 257. been real tough for people to carry him where he was at.
Yeah.
And I literally believe that he probably just did a shot of something, and he probably had that fentanyl in it. And they even have it to where he was probably resting on the tree where they found the remains, and trying to reenact the incident, and said he probably fell asleep, Rick. And I'm sure they're anything to try to make me
Comfort
feel
you.
better. They're very. I tell you one thing about Branson, you got a lot of sick individuals around here, sick-minded, and it's because of the drugs. It's not them I hate; it's the drugs that they take that I hate, because it makes them into not who they are.
Right.
People,
Right.
evil people. But I learned being in a small town, there was a lot of people that pulled in and really, really helped out as a community. Really loving, caring individuals that, without them, who knows? I mean, they definitely, showed us a lot of love. And we had a celebration of life for them. A lot of people showed up, and we honored my son, and people to this day do. I mean, we do bike runs for him every year. Good buddies of mine started it up. Now we're in the same club together. And like I said, it's his life, his memory lives on, and it will. His legacy will live on.
Yes. I have to tell you that, and I wondered when I was watching these videos of Dave if you were the gentleman that trained him, because when you really not only love your art and you love the discipline you're training on, you want to make your sensei proud, or I always did. And so when I'm watching him, he was just flawless, and he was so proud of what he was doing, and you could see that, and you saw the dedication in his eyes. And I think that was all for you. I really do. Like, you could see it, and
Was
it was.
was
It was.
he
And
was
it
the
was
kid. I
beautiful.
remember one of our last conversations. I went to the house, and I have two other children as well. Daniel's my middle. He's like 6'8", 6'9". He's
Good
tall. He's
night.
not as muscular as his brother, but he's a very smart, caring, loving kid. I love him to death. And my baby girl Madison, she just turned 21, and she's my problem child, man. Like, she's me. She's me in a female body. You know what I mean? Like, spitting image, anger issues. I'm like, thanks God, you're giving me and you made it as a woman, not a man. At least I could act differently to my son Dave. You
Right.
know,
And how do you act to her dates?
what's that?
How do you act to her dates when she brought her first boy home?
How did I'm sorry, Victoria, I didn't hear you.
How did you act the first time she brought a boy home for you to meet?
He was at the kitchen table writing out an essay. That was it.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. I have a forum where they have to answer the questions, man, and yeah, he never came back. And then from that time on, she wouldn't bring boys back to the house unless she knew I was going to totally approve. Funny story. We're looking at the fireworks at the landing. It's kind of like the boardwalk, from where I'm at. But it's again, they have the fireworks there. And sure enough, she's sitting there and she's talking to a boy. So I send my two boys to go over.
Yeah.
So they yank the kids up, man. They wound up leaving. And she walks over to me and she has tears in her eyes. And she's like, Dad, she goes, they were nice boys. They didn't do anything wrong. And Dave and Daniel really gave it to them. And I'm pretty sad. I said, well, I understand, honey. I said, but there's a really good way of that never happening again. And she goes, well, what is that, Dad? I said, never bring another boy or talk to one again. Don't ever bring a boy over to the house and never talk to one again, and we'll be fine.
Right? Oh, it reminds me of my daughter. My daughter is my mini me, fiery red hair, very smart alecky. And my husband said something to her, and she looked at him and goes, "If you have a problem, you need to deal with the manufacturer." And
Yeah.
she was young, and so he just kind of looked.
She's you, basically, right?
Right. And so she just kind of gave him this look, and then he's like, "You're daddy's girl." She's like, "No, I'm mama's girl, number one, and I'm more afraid to bring a boy home around mom than I am around you." And he was a detective and a canine officer and everything, and she's like, "Nope, not worried about you. I'm worried about mom." And he's like, "No, but you're my girl." And she's like, "No, let me explain this. When I'm good,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
mom's. When I'm bad, I'm yours. Because I get my smarts from my mom and I get being an ass from you." And I'm like, there you go.
Now, is she your only one?
Yes, she is. I
She's
have two other children from him that he has, but
okay.
yeah.
So she's spoiled.
Yes,
Yeah.
she is. She
Of
is.
course.
Of
It's
course
your
she is.
baby, man. That's it. I mean, listen, if you got it, why not? But, and I don't tell anybody how to parent. I mean, obviously, I mean, you try the best as you can and shit happens. But at the same point in time, getting older and getting back to my self mastery system, there's a way of raising children too, because your weakness is their way out.
Right.
So you're leading by example. You're doing martial
Absolutely.
arts. You know what I mean? Your husband's in law enforcement, so she has two great examples. And regardless if you're a good example or a bad example, you are always going to be their Wonder Woman or Superman in their eyes. So by leading by example, again, don't just do as I tell you, and not as I do, but do as I do and do as I tell you.
You're
And
like my
that's it. And it's a
brother.
reflection of you.
You're like
So
the older brother I always wanted.
yeah, absolutely, no doubt. But again, it's your trials and tribulations and errors in life that get you where you are. And I never had anybody that I was able to talk to like this. That's why I kind of navigated to older people because of, I was the baby. I
Right.
was, my two sisters, Jackie was 10 years older than me. Kathy was 13 years older than me. So I really, until they would bring boys home and party at the house. And these were my friends, what I
Yeah.
mean? Or at least I thought they were. So people need that. They need somebody. And with YouTube right now and the internet, they don't realize how good they have it. I mean, they have it at their fingertips where all they have to do is look up. I mean, go on to YouTube, my name, Rick Koenig, and you'll see at least a half a dozen. And then if you go on String Certified, you'll find at least, I have over 100 videos, and you've probably seen some of them.
I have.
And I might not be your cup of tea, but I guarantee you, everybody can find somebody that they can resonate with. And
Absolutely.
whatever you want to be in life, find that person that's doing it and doing it the way you would like to do it and just watch them.
Right.
See if you can talk to them. I mean, that's the easiest way. One
Right.
thing about the internet that I didn't like, it did take me out of doing seminars. I mean, I remember, and you remember, you used to have to travel for seminars.
Absolutely.
We put hundreds of miles on the vehicle, and that went away when YouTube came out because all they have to do is type in their favorite, martial artist, their name, and the technique, and guess what? You got it right there. You
Right
don't
there.
need to go, a couple of countries away or different states or wherever. You got it right at your fingertips.
Right. And
I love it.
I think that there's so much violence in schools these days, and it's rising more in elementary schools, and that is just horrible. And I do shows all the time about how these kids, they need an advocate, they need a voice. So Faith has her own podcast, and it is Teen Talk, where kids have an unconditionally acceptable place where they can talk and be heard and changes are made. And so, like, if she doesn't do her schoolwork, I'll say to her, you know what, I love you, I think you're amazing, but I don't like the fact that you chose not to do your schoolwork. So you chose to give me your phone because you chose not to do your schoolwork. I'm not taking it from you. You're choosing to give it to me until it is finished. And my daughter will tell you, I've never screamed in her face. I've never, nothing. And every day she tries to make somebody smile. This kid, I have to tell you, since,
How old is she, Victoria?
she is almost 18, but we're cognitively delayed a little bit. She just came out of the hospital. If you go and look anywhere, you'll see she just came out of the hospital. She just finished her 53rd surgery. And when we were in the hospital, she was in the ICU, and I almost lost her twice.
Oh,
And so she has people everywhere asking to interview her or asking her to interview them. And so she was supposed to interview Abigail Hawk from Blue Bloods, who is an amazing woman. She's an incredibly sweet lady. And I said, sweetheart, let's reschedule. She's like, no. And so I apologized to Abigail. I was like, I'm so sorry. We don't have our background. We're in the ICU. She's hooked up to everything and then some. She wants to do the interview. And she's like, what? And we're in the ICU. And she's like, no, my mom doesn't stop. She comes home and she works and works and works. And
love
I'm
it.
going to do it too.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Non-negotiable task. You're doing it even when you don't want to do it. And guess what? I wonder who she got the whole podcast idea from. Right. Lead them by example. And from what you just said right there, briefly, it's saying a lot. It's saying a lot.
Mhm.
So, she's been through it,
She
and
has.
she's persevering, and she's positive, and she's doing a podcast in the ICU. I mean, you talk about a champion. She's a true champion right there.
She is. She's overcome every single obstacle that's ever been in her way. And for Valentine's Day, she got a video from Dermot Mulroney. Do you know who he is? He was on My Best Friend's Wedding, and he was in
Okay.
Point of No Return. And he had heard about what she was going through, and he sent her a video asking to be her Valentine's. And I was like, looking at my husband, I was like, you are not going to top this. Like, I don't understand
Right.
how is really. And she's like, I don't want to be famous, I just want to help people. And that's what she does,
I
and it's
love it.
amazing. she
Oh,
she is my inspiration.
that is so that is incredible. I love to hear that. Yeah, you definitely have to give me her handle when we exit this podcast. I want to support her. Every like helps.
It
Even though
does,
she's not for
absolutely.
that, I want to watch some of her content. I mean,
She's amazing,
she
and she's
sounds like
written
she's
some
inspiration.
books. And
Sure.
yeah, she's amazing. I'll have her stop in when we get done recording. But she's amazing. Tell us about your program, what you do. I need to talk to you about it off air, actually. But what is she tell me all about your program?
Um, it's funny. I've been doing this strength certified, and again, it's certified with an S. I'm going on my 8th year of that brand, and what I started it at really and focusing in was online training when
Mhm.
COVID hit. And I kind of fell behind the curve. I was having problems with my financial guy, and it kind of fell apart. And then at that point in time, we were really structuring the brand, but then my son going missing. I was getting separated from my wife, and there was all kinds of just chaos going on where I just said I'm going to put it on the back burner. And that's what I did. And I would say about a year and a half ago, I've been watching my mentor, man, right when he got out of prison until now. And within not even 6 years, he's making close to $3 million a month. And
Wow.
I mean, I had to invest $7,500 into his program because he's not going to give you any information for free.
Sure.
I made that money back tenfold.
Wow.
And he has a saying, and I adopted it. You got to pay attention.
Right.
It's just like with martial arts. If I would let kids come in here for free, they would abuse that privilege. Now,
Yes.
if I'm taking money out of their pocket, they want to make sure they get their money's worth out of you, and they're
Right.
going to come. Well, it's the same thing with anything in life. You
Mhm.
have to pay. You have to pay if you want somebody else's knowledge, and it costs me thousands of dollars over the decades of everything that I've learned.
Right.
So again, it's a self mastery system. If they want just weight training with their lifting with weights, I have an online program Trainerize that I use. So I individually will design their own workouts for them, all depending on what they have to use.
Hmm.
Tell everybody they should get into the mindset and macros first, because if your mind's not right, nothing is right.
Right.
And again, we are what we ingest. The key to self mastery is what we eat. So I put them on a macro based diet that's very flexible. And then as they get used to it, we tighten it up. And then we
Mhm.
start dialing in on their macros. Because if you want abs, abs are built in the kitchen. They're not built in the gym. And without a proper diet, you'll never see your abs. So I get their mind and body right. And then we get into the workouts. So again, I got a low end ticket, I got a medium ticket, and I have a high end ticket program, all depending on what you're looking to improve. I can help you with. So again, it's just coming down to me having a consultation with them. They can go on to my website, which is strength-certified.com, which I'll give you. They go on there, they'll see my little landing page, and then they book a phone call with me. If they rather just message me, that's fine. My phone number's blast. They're going to talk to me. They're not going to talk to an assistant or a secretary or anybody. They talk to me, and I have right now, last it was 137 clients. 137. I got a guy coming in today, and these are clients I have here in Branson and across the country. So
Mhm.
a lot of it I do is online based, which is
Right.
actually tougher
Mhm.
than having them in person.
Yeah.
But again, we dial everything in, and they're on their way. I mean, I have so many success stories, testimonials over the decades that I post up there. And again, when they get done talking to me, I'm the real deal. They know
Yes.
that.
Yes.
There's nobody better.
Well,
I've been
I'll verify that if they ever want to know.
37 years. What's that?
I'll verify it all day long if they ever want to know.
Thank you. You're awesome.
And you
I
have
know I liked you.
and you have books out too. You've
I
written
do.
a book.
Yeah, I have an ebook. It's an ebook. It's nothing. I mean, let me tell you something right now. With AI, that is amazing. I mean, I can see why these, editors, these directors are upset with it because of really, you just throw in your bio and bang, it'll
Right.
give you a book.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta redo everything, but I mean that's something I wanted to come out. I had a few people wanting to do like a low end movie, which I did a scene for a buddy of mine. It's called For the Kids, where I come in there with my cut, my biker's vest, and I put a whooping on this guy that was doing the wrong thing. And so I did a little cameo in that. So it's again whatever I can do to help people out. I mean, we do like to make money, and that's what keeps the lights on. But
Right.
ultimately, if I died today, I'd be happy on what I achieved because I know I influenced and helped out many of people through their life.
Well, I can tell you, I know Dave is super proud of you and he's with you, and he just is honored
I
to be
thank
your
you for
son.
looking into that. A lot of people, you did your research.
Of course.
I
I
love
come
that.
prepared.
I love that.
I'm
That
very
that's all.
intense.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like that's it. You're down to the detail. See, that's where your daughter gets it from. And no disrespect to your husband. I mean, I'm sure him being in law enforcement, he's probably pretty structured. No, no.
I'm
I
going to make sure everybody gets. I can't thank you enough for being on with us. I want you to promise me that you will come back.
oh no, without a doubt. I mean, as soon as you say Victoria, I'm on it.
All right.
I'm on it.
I
And then, I didn't ask you real quick.
yes.
Do you mind? Where are you from?
I'm actually a Southern girl, even though I have Yankee in me.
Okay. All right.
Just don't. Do I sound Southern?
No, you don't. No, but same thing with me. They tell me all the time about my accent, and I'm like, you're the guy. You're the ones with the accent, not me. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? What are you
Hey,
talking
forget
about?
about it.
Forget about it. I'm so
You're
glad
awesome.
you're here. We're going to jump offline so Faith can see you. She's sitting here waiting to talk with you. So, again, we're going to have him come back on very soon. Rick, it's been nothing but a pleasure. I can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you.